This video is to show you a little trick about dealing with square root signs and exponents, because for some people the square root sign makes them go a little crazy. They think, all right, well, somehow I gotta take out my calculator and find what the square root of 34 is. That's not what you have to do here. Keep in mind 34 is the exponent, so exponent rules apply. I find for most people it's easier to deal with situations like this by rewriting it, instead of rewriting it as a square root, to rewrite it as the same thing to the power of 1/2, because we know those are the same thing, right? Square root is the same as to the power of 1/2. You're going back and forth between the same thing. And if I write it to the power of 1/2, and I know my rule about multiplying exponents when I have a power on the outside of the brackets like this, then I know that I've got to multiply 34 times 1/2 to get my new exponent. 34 times 1/2, the same thing as 34 divided by 2. That just gives me x to the 17. So it's not the square root of 34. I'm not going to get some crazy exponent answer. I'm just really chopping the exponent I started out with in half. That 34 becomes a 17. Let's look at a more complicated example. Here I've got a cube root question, right? The little 3 here means you're dealing with a cube root. So you got 125 x to the 9th, y to the 12th, z to the 24. If you're really comfortable with this, you'll already know that a cube root means that you're slicing all these exponents into thirds, right? So instead of chopping them in half, it'll be dividing by 3. But in case you're not super comfortable with that, try rewriting this situation as the same thing to the power of 1/3. Again, you're just writing it a different way. A cube root is the same thing as raising it to the power of 1/3. And once you've got your exponent on the outside, again, if you're comfortable recognizing that, means now I got to take this exponent, multiply it by each of the exponents on the inside. I've got 125 to the power of 1/3 times x to the 9th to the power x to the 9th times 1/3, y to the 12 times 1/3, and z to the 24 times 1/3. And I still have to deal with fractions here, but these are all these are all over 1, right? 9 over 1 times 1 over 3, 12 over 1 times 1 over 3, 24 over 1 times 1 over 3. And I end up just chopping each of these numbers so that I get a third of them, right? Now, I still have to get the cube root of 125, which, if you know your cube roots, you know that that's 5. But then I'm just chopping each of these exponents into getting a third of it. So 9 divided by 3 gives me 3, 12 divided by 3 gives me 4, 24 divided by 3 gives me 8.